Good morning, it's 7:20, still to come at 7:30. All the latest traffic, travel, news and weather, plus the latest sports headlines with Mike Bradley.
And at 7:45 this week's Telly Talk. But first, you might have noticed him in the corner. It's debt buster Richard Fenton. He's here to tell us all how to cope with the financial hangover left from Christmas. It's sadly one of the bad repercussions of us all overspending, overindulging, is that we're probably now fretting a little bit about how to start the year on a good foot financially. Where do we start?
Well, I mean, your first point's a very good one. Running into Christmas, people have probably spent anywhere between £300 to £600 on top of their normal expenditure for the month. So it's really a case of sitting down and taking stock of everything that you spent during the Christmas period and putting a plan together for the rest of the year. Starting the year as you mean to go on. I mean, probably your first New Year resolution should be this year to sit down and look at your finances. It certainly should be the first resolution of any of the banking institutions out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's really just taking the bull by the horns and taking a look at the bank statements, opening all the bills and getting a plan together. Taking some actual
this is it, Richard, as well, because many people will be thinking, right, I'll deal with this in the new year. We're in the new year. You know, term starts now. So we need to kind of... Should we just open all the mail and just like, all right, sort it all out? Or should we have a plan of, right, if I do my utilities here, if I concentrate on this here, and then open them up so you've got yourself sort of decompartmentalise your bills?
It's a very good point. I think you can do it in both together. Open all the mail, but pile up everything into sections. So look at your utilities one day, look at your credit cards another day, look at your personal loans, perhaps look at your mortgage lender as well. The banking situation has settled down a little bit now, and it's going to be far easier for people with existing borrowings against a property to remortgage than it will be for a first-time buy, for example. So you may be able to get a better deal on your mortgage, for example. You may want to move away from the tracker deal. You may want to tie yourself into some kind of fixed-term deal, although the fixed-term deals coming into 2009 are going to be quite expensive. But with the government taking, and in particular the Treasury taking the action they have with the interest rates, we are going to start to see some of the mortgage deals coming down. But unless you've got a big fat deposit as a first-time buyer, it's going to be very difficult for you to get onto that ladder.
Is now a good time then? I mean, I think it's a great point that you said about doing it in chunks, because it can be so overwhelming. It's easy to just shove them in the drawer and think, ain't going to deal with that today, and that's when you start getting yourself in more problems. But is it a good idea to perhaps start looking around for 0% deals on credit cards that we see, or consolidating your loans, or are these rates going to fall even further? Is that kind of a con in a way, I suppose I'm asking?
I think the government has taken about as much decisive action as it can take with the interest rates, and the banks have been very slow to move in terms of passing those rates on to the lender, because the banks are kind of caught between a rock and a hard place. They need to make a profit to repair the damage that they've done to their own institutions so they can repay the government back for the financial injection that they've taken in 2008. The quick answer is, if you can get the deal, take it. So take a look at what you're actually paying for your finance. If you can get a lower rate, move on to the lower rate as soon as you possibly can.
OK, we were talking before Christmas about sort of the sales, Christmas sales, and everybody was there with bated breath as to kind of what bargains they're going to get from the big high street stores. We've seen some dramatic slashes in prices. But there have been concerns from certain areas of the society, particularly the clergy, the Bishop of Manchester, amongst others, have come out and said and showed their concerns about our eagerness to kind of part with our cash, especially in times of recession and economic downturn. But is it a wise thing to do, to be spending our money now, so early into the year, trying to pick up a bargain? Should we be holding off, or are there things that we could be buying that could save us money for future months?
A bargain is only a bargain if it is actually going to save you money. If you can make a purchase and it's going to save you cash in the long run because you're going to be making that purchase further down the line, i.e. Christmas 2009. I think Nikki made a good point while we were talking just before the break, in terms of going into Tesco's, wrapping paper 50p a roll now, Christmas cards half price, all the little bits of paraphernalia that you spend a fortune on in the weeks running up to Christmas because there's a captive audience. Buy it now, stick it in the loft, stick it in the cupboard, wait till December later this year, and then you've got some cheap, brand new Christmas paraphernalia and all the little gifts and things that all the stores do that are specifically there for Christmas, the 2-for-1 deals. Get in, buy them now, put them in a cupboard, and you will have saved yourself a fortune, yes. Yeah, I would say go for it.
What advice would you give to people who are obviously starting off the new year? We're hearing about redundancies left, right and centre, and it's set to get worse. What advice would you give to people who may find themselves in a position of uncertainty when it comes to employment and are thinking about planning for the year? What can you do to actually look at your finances and without making dramatic cuts, so, you know, maybe not going out, and that is perhaps not a realistic thing to say to people, but how can they make small cuts and plan for the year?
If you go onto the website, for example, you can take a look at things like utilities, where you do your weekly shopping, etc. Also, putting together a little savings account. Many people think that you have to have thousands of pounds in a savings account for it to do you any good. You can have rainy day savings. Anything between £50 to £500 that you can stick your hands on instantly is going to be useful to you. So just squirreling away small amounts each week. If you save £10 a week, for example, you'll have £520 over the year. That pays for Christmas on the average spend of £600. Also, on the unemployment thing, it's think ahead. Start preparing now. So if you're in a sector that's under risk, for example, the high street, get the CV up to date. Start looking around, see who is hiring. Perhaps take a different direction with your career. Move into sales, move into something that you've not necessarily thought about. Preparation is key for everything, whether it's your finances or whether it's just your future in general.
Just to reiterate a point you made before about the website, because interestingly, it kind of breaks things down, because what can seem as a mammoth task and a bit overwhelming, you've kind of broken it down into individual bits so that it does its work for you, almost.
We've actually put a calculator on the website, which means you can sit in front of the PC, input all your income, all your expenditure, all the debts that you have in the world. Once you get to the end of the calculator, it actually spits out exactly what your financial position is. It will tell you you've got negative or positive income. So it'll tell you whether you need to reduce your loan repayments or whether you've actually got spare cash that you can actually save and start squirreling away for a rainy day. It takes about 5-10 minutes, but it does all that hard work for you.
Go on, Richard, get your plug in. What's your website?
It's survivingthecreditcrunch.org.uk.
Survivingthecreditcrunch.org.uk.
Yeah.
Good
Fabulous.
stuff.
Thank you, Rich, and you'll be back with us a little bit later on with more financial advice, which I think we all need come 2009. Thank you very much.
Lovely.
Time for a quick break now, after which we'll have all the latest news, traffic, travel and weather, plus today's sports headlines and Teletalk with Polly at 7:45. See you shortly.